Hey, John for jmcGarage, and in this video of jmcGarage, we're talking about, as you saw by the thumbnail, about a particular company that is absolutely in trouble unless they can course correct and change the trajectory of what they're actually going to be doing. And I'm talking about Ford. So you may be like, John, why are you so harping on Ford lately? Well, I know there's channels out there on YouTube that harpen or really grab a hold of different companies and they focus on that company. For example, and I'll mention a few channel particulars, TK's Garage really focuses on Stellantis, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, and so does Buttered Insider and many others. There's other YouTube channels that focus on just GM vehicles, whether it be Cadillac, Chevy, GMC, and others. Primarily because I am a Ford family, we have two brand new Fords in the fleet, and I also inherited one from my dad. I have some stake in Ford, with vehicles that we purchased. I have a feeling that I can talk a little bit on the subject. Plus, of my background, I've been working in the automotive field for over 20 years. Currently, I work for one of the largest rental car groups in the nation here in North America, and that's Budget Davis Group. So I have a little bit of background. I've been around vehicles all my life, and I'm just telling you right now that the trajectory that Ford is going, if they stay on their current path, is going to lead to failure. And many people have named the current CEO of Ford Failure Farley. And it's sad because right now I don't think he's got a clue. And I think part of it is he does have a clue, but he doesn't want to admit that, oh, we need to change course. We need to change direction. The sign of a great leader is one that can actually point out the fact that, hey, I've made a mistake and we need to change direction. We need to change course to go in the right path that we need to go, to go in the path that I believe the company's heading towards, to go in the path I believe the nation is asking for. And I feel like Farley is not willing to do that. Stellantis had an issue with their current CEO, well, with their old current CEO, and that was Carlos Tavares. And the reason why he was let go was he did not want to change the course. He did not want to change the trajectory that he put Stellantis on in pursuing EVs and everything else. And finally, he was not really let go, but I believe he was asked to resign. He did resign. Stellantis has a new CEO. They have some new leadership. I believe Stellantis is now on the right path to get back to where they need to be, especially here in North America. And I'm primarily speaking about North America. But Ford now is in this exact same position. The exact same position that Stellantis was about a year ago, if not a little bit more. Ford is now in this position to where if they don't change, if they don't course correct, if they don't see the writing on the wall, I believe they're going to hit basically a rock bottom point that it's going to be very hard to get out of. Now, quick stats. We all know, and I'm going to go through this here. We all know that Ford is one of the leaders, unfortunately, in recalls. So far this year, they have about 109 recalls so far, and we're not even at the year's end. Who knows how many more will mount up before the end of the year. It's basically they broke a record, and it's not a very record to be proud of to be breaking. So there's definitely some issues within Ford that need to be corrected, that need to be taken care of. And what I want this video to be is, I'm hoping it's a wake-up call. I don't know if Chris, or sorry, not Chris. I don't know if Jim Farley will ever see this video, or if anybody in Ford will ever see this video. Maybe they will. But somebody needs to take the CEO aside and say, look, we need to change course. The trajectory that we are on right now is going to lead us into an iceberg that we're never going to recover from, and Ford is going to be a sinking Titanic. I'm just telling you, that's what's going to happen. So, as many of you know, we're going to get deep into this. This video won't be long, but as many of you know, at the beginning of this month was the ending here in North America, at least for the U.S., don't know about Canada, but at least for the U.S., the ending of the $7,500 EV tax credit. Now, with that in mind, many people will see the writing on the wall, especially with our current administration here in America. And who knows what could happen 4 years or 3 years down the road. We'll see. But I believe there is a turning that is happening in America. And me personally, I never was for the EV tax credit. So, hold your comments for the end. But we see that it's already been canceled, and Farley actually realizes this, and he says in a statement on Ford Authority, Ford Authority reported on this, but he said this, that according to CNBC, Farley wouldn't be surprised if EV sales are cut in half or more as a result of tax credit going away. In fact, September's believe that EV market share hit a record somewhere between 10 to 12%. That's because there was a surge before the tax credit ended. But Farley thinks the sales figures are going to plummet. He says, and I quote, "I think it's going to be a vibrant industry." Really? Really? He says some more ridiculous stuff that we're going to get into, but it's going to be smaller, way smaller than what we thought, especially with the policy change in the tailpipe emissions, plus the $7,500 consumer incentive going away. We're going to find out here in a month, and I wouldn't be surprised that EV sales in the U.S. go down 5%. Dude, I'm telling you, if Ford doesn't course correct and change, especially with the canceling of the Escape, which I'm going to go into briefly, and they're building this stupid EV pickup on this stupid architecture that nobody's asking for. See, the problem is that Ford, excuse me, is trying to answer a question that nobody asked, at least not here in North America. Nobody's asking the question that he's trying to answer with this EV truck. And, anyway. So we see the writing on the wall. We really do. That's number one. Number two, another thing that Ford or Farley gets into that is really, I don't know. Someone please help me understand why he is so fascinated with Chinese EVs. I don't get it. As an American consumer, as a North American consumer, I could care less what China is doing. In fact, I can't even get the vehicles here. They're not even available, whether it be this current administration or the previous administration. They both put a ban on Chinese vehicles made here, or being offered here. So I don't understand what he's going on about Chinese vehicles and that we're behind the ball and everything else. Who in the flip cares? I mean, really, who cares? Anyway, he goes on to say in this weird podcast of the Verge Decoders podcast, no idea what that was, that there's no competition from Tesla, GM, or Ford, of which they've seen from China. It's completely dominating the EV landscape globally and more outside of China. And I just want to say that response that he quoted on this podcast. So, who cares? I don't give a rip about what China's doing. I could care less about what their EVs are doing. And I bet you 98% of Americans probably feel the same way that I do, that could care less about Chinese EVs or what they're doing or what they're offering. That's what China is doing. Here in the U.S., here in North America, we're not competing with China. We're not competing with China. We are competing with the likes of Toyota, with the likes of, maybe not Nissan no more, but with the likes of Nissan and other competitors. The thing of it is, Jim Farley feels that Chinese EVs are Blue Oval's closest or chief rivals. And I fear that's where the problem is. And I'll say this again, and maybe Jim will see this. China EVs are not your rival. Toyota is your rival. General Motors isn't your rival anymore. Toyota is your rival. If you start doing what Toyota is doing and do it well and exceed it, I guarantee you that Ford sales would increase dramatically. You play on your strengths, Ford. You play on the strengths of creating amazing ICE vehicles. You play on your strengths of creating hybrids and doing well at it, plug-in hybrids and those things, not EVs. Get out of the EV space. I mean, I guarantee you that the Mach-E is going to suffer and is going to fail miserably since the tax credit's gone. The F-150 Lightning, that's been kind of a disaster, and now I don't see it really selling all that well. The only EV that Ford has that I see doing somewhat decent is actually the Transit EV, because small delivery companies love the Transit EV. They can go around town, they can charge it overnight, come back and go into town and do their deliveries and everything else, and it's great for that. And I think more power to them. But the F-150 Lightning, and especially the Mach-E, I'm not even calling it a Mustang because it's not a Mustang, but the Mach-E are going to fail, and their sales are going to tank. And it's just, and he wants to dabble more in the EVs, where their strength is, and I believe where Ford's strength is. And Jim, if you're listening, this is what you need to do. Play on building up your ICE and doing it well, your internal combustion engines, and doing it well. Continue using and doing hybrids well. Offer something with hybrids that nobody's ever even seen before, or do something well with hybrids. Continue to play on that strength, and not only hybrids, but also even plug-in hybrids. I believe those have a viable future here in America, but pure EVs is just not there. And you bring in a 30K truck to market, supposedly it's going to be 30K. I guarantee it's going to be more than that, or within a year after introduction, the price is going to hike up even quicker than one expected, because that's not the answer. And if Ford wants to get out of this trajectory or funk that they're in, they really need to play their strengths. And I'm going to say this right now. The third thing is they need to do better in quality. I'm just going to say it right now. I love Ford. I'm not ashamed to say that, but at the same time, I understand that there's faults with current Ford and their leadership, and they need to do quality better. They really need to do quality better. Having over 100 recalls in a year is unacceptable, and you're focusing on the wrong thing. You play to your strengths, and you do what needs to be done to up your quality. You don't worry about future products or what some other country is doing that's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of miles away. Who cares what they're doing? You got to focus on what you're doing now, here in North America. Anyway, and just one thing I want to go over real quick, and then we're going to end this video. So we all know that the Ford Escape is going away after 2026. In fact, supposedly towards the end of this year, they're going to stop making it, tear down Louisville factory, as far as they're going to tear down everything that it's building, the Escape and the Corsair, and kind of rebuild it for this upcoming EV truck thing, whatever you want to call it. I have no idea. Some calling it the Ranchero 2.0. Whatever. Awesome. There is a stat that I have here. The top 25 models that have market share in the U.S. And can you believe in the top 10 is the Ford Escape? Top 10 right here. The Ford Escape is in the top 10. And yet, Jim wants to be like, okay, let's just cancel it and build a truck that nobody's asking for, that nobody's really interested in, and that nobody wants. Really? I mean, really. I'm not here to harp on that. I'm just saying it's pretty significant that the Ford Escape is in the top 10 of market share of vehicles here in North America. Awesome. Now, I've been primarily focused on North America. I've been primarily focused on what's going on here in America. But I'm just saying right now, this doesn't apply just to America or North America. This can apply to Europe, and especially in Australia. I see there's a flood of Chinese vehicles coming in Australia, and I don't really see them taking market share as some of the old standbys that have been there for years and years and years. I'm talking about Toyota, I'm talking about Ford, I'm talking about General Motors that have been in Australia for going on 50 to 60 years. And now we have this flood of Chinese. I mean, if Ford wants to look at what Chinese EVs do in a market that is not their own, just take a look at Australia. And I'm telling you right now, the reception is not very good. It's not. So, and I believe Australia has kind of the same, excuse me, getting over a cold, kind of the same market that we have here in America. So, anyway, I just want to bring this to you guys, and just a plea. I think people need to be aware that unless something changes, Ford is going to go on a downward spiral that it's going to be very hard to recover and to get out of. And I see them right now on the same trajectory as Stellantis was. And it's not a good one. It's not a good one. It almost bankrupts Stellantis. It almost bankrupted the company. We almost had and Stellantis is now trying to claw out of that. It's trying to get their image back with Ram introducing the Hemi again, and Dodge getting away from this stupid EV charger mess and everything else. So I believe Stellantis is on the right course. They really need to continue. They have an uphill battle. Unless Ford does something drastic and different, they're going to go through the same thing that Stellantis is doing, and it's going to be sad to see. Awesome. Well, you guys be blessed. Let me know your thoughts and comments. I love to know what those are. I love to read about those, and I think that more and more channels need to make this aware and bring it before the people's attention, because if there's enough of an outcry against what Jim Farley is doing, maybe his eyes will be open. We can only pray and hope. Amen. But let's go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Appreciate you guys. Stay tuned for the next video I upload every single Saturday. You guys be blessed, and we'll catch you on the next one.